So he just said it. Like, that's what Sun. A lot of people, if you don't study history, realize Sun. You think that he's like some kind of ideal of the father of modern China. But if you actually study him carefully, he's just a guy that he never did anything. And so when that happened, Yuan then gave Sun a nickname called Sun Da Pao. Da Pao just means it actually means cannon. So in Chinese, when you call someone Da Pao, it means that he's just a guy who just talks big. So that's how Sun Yat-sen's nickname come from. And so afterwards, Sun left. Simultaneously, actually, there was this leader at the time. All the revolutionaries were gathered together using the name called Tongmenghui. Tongmenghui just means alliance of societies. Tongmenghui. And Tongmenghui, there were three main factions from three main provinces: Hunan, Guangdong, Zhejiang. So Hunan is a place where Zheng Gaofan came from, where Mao came from. Very militant, very amazing province. Guangdong, obviously, because it's next to Hong Kong and next to Guangzhou, is where the beginning of a lot of the Western influence came from. And Zhejiang is the province right next to Shanghai. So again, a lot of Western influence. So these are the three provinces. I've mentioned that last time. Of the three places, one of the key individuals is a guy named Song. Song Jiaoren. Song Jiaoren came from Hunan. He came from Hunan. He was quite amazing. I mean, he actually went to study in Japan. He came first in his class in studying constitutional law. In 1907, there was Japan had already taken over Korea. There was this piece of land called Jiandao, where there was a debate, a bit like the Diaoyu Islands today, between Japan and China. He actually went through local documents in Korean and Japanese and Chinese, and actually wrote a paper to say Jiandao for many years should belong to China. And Chinese government, even though he was a revolutionary already in 1907, he was actually a criminal. He was actually a wanted criminal. His paper was then used by the Chinese government to take this land back. Okay, and so Yuan and the Empress Dowager were actually asked Song personally to, why don't you come over and help us? Song was like, I'm sorry, I'm a revolutionary. He was the most reasonable of all the revolutionary leaders. He was amazing in his organization. Apparently, in 1912, before Yuan forced the Qing to abdicate, he wrote the temporary constitution in one night. And obviously, that constitution, the problem with that constitution was, the problem with the constitution is Yuan had no say. They just wrote it. And so when Sun went up to Beijing and this whole thing, one episode was that the revolutionaries wanted Yuan to come down to Nanjing to be the president, to take him away from the base. Okay? And so when they took him to the base, Yuan was like, I'm not going to do that. And so so Song and Wang Jingwei and Cai Yanpei, one of the first principals, the chancellors of the Beijing University, went to Beijing to ask Yuan to come down to Nanjing. And when that happened, that night, when they were in the hotel, in the ambassador, when the embassies were, that area had a guy called Cao. He was later the president of the Republic of China as well. Cao's armies looted 4,600 stores in China, in Beijing, burning everything. And so the Western embassies were actually very scared that, is this the next Boxer Rebellion? And so they asked Yuan, we need you to be in Beijing. Now, did Yuan do it? According to Tang Shaoyi, he said, that same night he was meeting Yuan Shikai. And then Cao Kun went into the study and said, 大帅, as in leader, I got it done, man. And then Yuan Shikai was like, shut up. So according to Tang, Yuan Shikai did it. But then the problem is there's no collaborative evidence because Tang obviously, he was fired, right? Remember from the negotiations in December 1911. So he probably held a grudge against Yuan. So again, this is one of those, it's as my fellow Princetonian once, F. Scott Fitzgerald said, right? Like the evidence of a great mind is the ability to handle two conflicting thoughts simultaneously. And so when you study any Chinese history, you probably would have to handle two very conflicting thoughts. But so this is one of them. Did Yuan instigate such a rebellious act? But in any case, Yuan stayed in Beijing. And when Yuan stayed in Beijing, around the same time, Song Jiaoren in Beijing founded Kuomintang. Kuomintang was actually founded by Song Jiaoren. And then, but he only called himself like the vice premier. He named Sun Yat-sen to be the premier. But then Sun Yat-sen had no involvement, so to speak, in the creation. He grouped the four main factions of the Tongmenghui together. But more importantly, Sun Yat-sen did not get along with the Tongmenghui members from Zhejiang. Within Zhejiang, there are two groups. One group is by a guy called Zhang Taiyan, one of the main Chinese scholars of the modern era. Another guy is called Chen Qimei. I'm going to write him here. So Sun, Chen Qimei. Chen Qimei also Zhejiang人. Chen Qimei's, he is the boss and the older brother of a guy you probably would have heard of, Chiang Kai-shek. Also a Zhejiang person. So it's one of the important things, I think, if you say like for foreign readers of Chinese history, especially modern Chinese history, is to understand the provincial characteristics. Because a Guangdong person is completely different the way he would approach things and so on and so forth from, let's say, a Hunan person and versus like a Zhejiang person. So in this case, if you study this period of history, Zhejiang is, you could say, is an anti-Sun province within the revolutionaries, apart from Chen Qimei. Chen Qimei, Jiang Jieshi, Chiang Kai-shek, they're both part of a triad society called Qing Bang. Qing Bang were they were workers at the pier, because there was a lot of goods transportation throughout the Qing Dynasty from the south to the north. And so these people organized themselves and protect themselves. So they called Qing Bang. Sun came from a triad society called Hongmen. They were the anti-Qing Guangdong provinces, who were you could say the ancestors of modern day triads. Okay, Sun was part of the triad society in Hawaii. Okay, and they are part of the triad society in Shanghai. Okay, and so Song, when he was organizing in Kuomintang, because he's an academic, right? He's not a triad or whatever. He tried to take these people out. He actually did not get along with Sun either. He actually, if you look at, and actually I have a point with this, because later there's a huge thing that happened to Song. Song actually wrote in his diary that, you know what, Sun is actually kind of scary. Like he would just go along with his own ideas without listening to anybody. Okay,